Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Sunday Night Live. Tonight, we are talking about our Industrial and Systems Engineering program. My name is Maddie Hogan. I am an enrollment counselor at Colorado Christian University, working with first-time freshmen from Northwestern Colorado. Today, we are joined by two of our professors, as well as two students and our Dean of Enrollment, Jolita Martin. I am going to pass it to Jo and introduce her really quickly, and then we're going to introduce everybody else.
Great. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're excited to have you and to answer any questions that you have, and definitely to give you an idea of what we are offering in terms of our programs. If there's any questions with regard to the Office of Admissions or enrolling in CCU, etc., applying, Maddie and I both happy to answer those for you.
Great, thank you so much. I would like to introduce Kaylee and Caitlin, who are two of our current students at CCU. Do you guys mind introducing yourself, telling us where you're from, what you're studying, what year you are, and maybe your favorite thing about your current major?
Yeah, so I'll go first. So I'm Kaylee. I am a sophomore and my major is Industrial and Systems Engineering. I am from Kansas City, so go Chiefs. We're in the Super Bowl right now. Good times. And probably my favorite thing about engineering is how close everybody is. And like we know all the professors and know all the students. And so it's really fun to just be able to get to know everybody.
Hi, I'm Caitlin. I'm also an Industrial and Systems Engineering major, and I'm a junior, and I'm from South Bend, Indiana. And I think one of my favorite things is just the small classes. It really enables us to get to know the other students and also the professors.
Great, thank you so much. And as I'm introducing the professors, I just wanted to let you know you're welcome to submit questions either by chat or by the Q&A that we have both a student perspective and a professor perspective of any questions that you may have. But I wanted to introduce Dr. Parker and Dr. Hickson, and Dr. Parker is going to give us a little bit of introduction about the program.
Thank you, Maddie. So I just wanted to welcome everyone who's with us live and will be watching in the future. We very much appreciate your attendance and interest in our programs. So I'm Dean of the School of Science and Engineering, and I got the dubious task as a developmental neuroscience of launching an engineering program at a small Christian liberal arts school. None of those things are necessarily the normal path for engineering. But because we had some very interested and passionate friends of the university, members of the board of trustee, and a president who was a doer, not a talker, I was brought in a room and we had a discussion. We're going to have an engineering program, and we have an engineering program. And so it was an interesting exercise for me to look at what sort of engineering would be a good fit at a university whose mission is to train students to impact the world for Christ. So when you think engineering, most people think mechanical or civil or possibly electrical. And we talked about doing that, but we also talked about the impact that engineering can have in other ways as well. And we ended up looking at what's called industrial and systems engineering, because it's a discipline, and Dr. Hickson can go into more detail with this, but it's a discipline that can impact all areas of life. It can make a relief effort go better. It can make a mission organization work more efficiently. It can impact a healthcare system to work less expensively and to treat patients better. And so it's a discipline that fits very well with our mission. So that was our first endeavor into engineering, was industrial and systems. Since that time, we've added a 2-year associate's program with the intention of bringing students to Colorado Christian University to give them 2 years of what I refer to as the CCU distinctives, a solid biblical foundation that helps them build their Christian worldview with an understanding of who and what CCU wants a student to be in order to impact the world for Christ. And after that 2 years, If they want to then pursue a mechanical engineering or an electrical engineering, we've worked with partner organizations to allow them to finish out that degree with those partners. And then our latest endeavor is engineering project management, which will launch this fall. So this is a degree that impacts everything. Also, because everything is a project. Once you get in the business world, everything's a project, and somebody has to manage those projects or they don't get done. And so in the engineering world, it's a critically important position. And interestingly enough, it's a position that's sort of near and dear to the faculty at CCU, because it turns out our Dean of Theology was an engineering project management major as an undergrad, and it equipped him very well to manage a school of theology after a long career at Ford. So it's just an interesting circle we've come around. So I just wanted to introduce myself and give you a little history on how we got to where we are today. But we now are in the final semester of our first cohort, and we will be graduating our first engineers later this semester. And those students are already out launching into the world. Actually, one of them had a job at an aerospace firm during the first semester of their senior year. So we're doing really well, and we've been blessed to be joined by Dr. Hickson. So Dr. Hickson is unique, or relatively unique in my experience with engineers, in that he's one of the most outgoing and gregarious engineers you're going to meet. And so he's this perfect fit at CCU and has been integral in building these programs and contributed mightily to the recruiting and growth and excellence that we're seeing in these programs. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to step out now, but I just wanted to give you a face to put with the dean of the school and to welcome you and thank you for your interest in our programs. Thank you very much. Dr. Hickson.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. Have a good night.
Thanks, Dean Parker. Okay, so I'm going to do a little bit of a different thing than Dean Parker did. He kind of introduced you to the programs. I want to introduce you to the vision of the engineering program at CCU. So it's a little less industrial and systems, and it's a little more, what's our vision for doing an engineering program at a Christian-focused institution or at a biblical institution. So I'm going to go ahead and share a little bit of things. I'll fly through them real quick. We're going to hit some stereotypes on purpose, and then we're going to kind of blast through those stereotypes because I get a lot of questions when I'm talking to folks who are looking at engineering programs. And the first thing I need to do is I need to break down what you think you know, and I need to rebuild you back into what actually makes sense. So I'm going to go ahead and share a little bit of a keynote. So I'm going to get some confirmation. Can folks on that are live see this? Okay, wonderful. So it's a vision for biblical engineering, right? And it's our Colorado Christian vision for biblical engineering. So what I want you to see is, let's start what we don't mean by engineering. We don't mean people who drive trains. So stop. If you think about trains and you think about engineer, yes, that is called an engineer. That is not our engineer. We are not that kind of an engineer. If you think about somebody who builds bridges, great. That is an engineer. That is a civil engineer. That is not the kind of engineering we do. So we're not civil engineers. We're not going to be civil engineers. If you want to build bridges, don't come to our program or do the associate science in pre-engineering, because we're not going to be able to build bridges coming out of our program. Okay, I'm good at math and science. That's the other thing I hear a lot is, I'm great at math and science. Should I be an engineer? I want to be an engineer. Sure. But good at math and science, I wouldn't say is your main driver for wanting to be an engineer, or shouldn't be your main driver for wanting to be an engineer, because you can do a lot of things being good at math and science. So, well, I know an engineer when I see one, right? This is the stereotypical engineer. They have their pocket protector, their big thick rimmed glasses. Okay, but these are real engineers, right? These are the engineers that come into my class every day, right? These are the engineers that are prototyping new and different things. And if you're wondering what they're doing here, they're actually building a RetroPie gaming system, and they're prototyping what the display unit would look like for that RetroPie gaming system. So our goal with this is, they've done project proposals, they're developing the actual gaming system, and then we have to pitch that to the university to try to say, hey, where can we put these? Are we allowed to put them? What are the ramifications of COVID in terms of putting all these things in there, or other university policies and other university regulations? So this is what real engineers look like, and this is what I hope you look like when you come into our program. So let's define engineer a little bit. The thing I want to drive home here, using methods you do not understand. So we solve problems using methods you don't understand. we've forgotten more math than you'll ever understand or you'll ever know. So the one that I like on this one is wizard or magician. Sometimes we can seem like a wizard or a magician. We're not. It's just we use different tools to do different interesting things. Here's the real one. Forms the link between scientific discovery and practical societal use. Skillful contriver of something original, or originator of something. If you go to the Accreditation Board of Engineering and Technology, engineering is when a knowledge of mathematical and natural sciences is applied with judgment to utilize economically the materials and forces of nature to the benefit of mankind. So the key here, we're using math and natural sciences. I'm good at math and science, yay. Applied with judgment. That's what you're coming to CCU for, is you're coming to CCU to help you understand what that judgment looks like. And then we're gonna do that to benefit society or to utilize those things. So what I think about is I think of problem solvers, critical thinkers, analyzers, improvers, designers, efficiency experts. If you wanna do these things, come to CCU and do engineering, right? Like this is what it means to be engineering. And then, oh, by the way, we do that through applied math, science, and technology. So don't do it because I'm good at math and science. Do it because you want to be a problem solver. You want to be a critical thinker. You want to analyze. You want to improve. You want to do. So now let's think about how we expound on this worldview, right, with a program like CCU. So we take these applied math and science with all these other character traits that we have. And for those of you who have physics, which if you're looking at this program, you've had physics, we have a lens. That lens focuses down into an area, right? Well, let's talk about what our lens is. Our lens is our Christian worldview, right? So how are we going to use our Christian worldview to focus in an area? And in our mind, our focus is the way we have impact. So if we look at that, we're looking at the Christian worldview from a grace, truth, stewardship, right? And you can read the rest of the words on there, but those are our Christian worldview. And we're bringing that to the way we solve problems. We're bringing that to the way we analyze things through the math and science and technology that we learn. What's our goal? Obey God, glorify God, experience joy, benefit humanity, evangelize. There's more, but you can only make a box so big, right? So that's what we're doing. That's the nature of this program. That's the joy of this program. And if you're interested in that, that's why you would want to come to our program. What are you going to actually do? Because that's another one of the questions I get, right? You're going to do things like optimize. You're going to increase efficiency. You're going to reduce waste, logistics. You're going to do data analytics, forecasting, project management, product development, those type of things, project development, right? So Dr. Parker, Dean Parker already said this, but let's hit just so we're sure where we're at. We have 3 different programs. The first one, and the one we started with, is our BS in Industrial and Systems Engineering, right? If you're interested in that one, you want to solve complex problems via optimization, logistics, reducing waste, efficiency, product development. The next one would be the Bachelor of Science in General Engineering with a focus in project management. You're going to do a lot of the things you do in the Industrial and Systems one, but you're going to dive deep into project management because that's a skill that's needed all across industry, especially technological industry. The third one would be an Associates in Pre-Engineering. So you're going to learn this engineering design, problem solving, ethics, system thinking. Those are all integrated into the BS programs as well. But that's what we're fundamentally driving home here, plus the biblical core, right? The solid worldview core that you're going to get from any CCU degree. And our goal, or my hope, and what I'm going to drive you to, is you complete a Bachelor of Science, right? My hope is you come into one of our programs, Industrial and Systems or General Engineering. But let's say you want to do mechanical or you want to do electrical. Well, we get you into one of those programs somewhere where it makes sense for you to do that. But you got that core, that biblical foundation, and that solid engineering core. So I'm going to stop now. I'm going to let Maddie take over and ask whatever questions we have, or the attendees to ask questions. But thanks for checking out our program. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you, Dr. Hickson. That was an incredible presentation, and one that I hope anybody who's interested in engineering at CCU does get to see. So I'm so happy we have that recorded. Thank you for sharing that with us. Joe Lita Martin, do you have questions that you would like to start with?
Yes, I do. So this question is both, I think, for students and for you, Dr. Hickson. What is the average size of classes, and how difficult, or what is the rigor of the program?
I'll answer the easy one. So the average size of classes right now ranges between 2 students in our first class and let's say 14 is in my first year class. So the 14 are not only industrial and systems students, but then there are also folks that are in the AS program. And then we are figuring out what it looks like to offer an engineering minor. So there's a student there that's kind of prototyping the engineering minor. I'm going to let Caitlin and Kaylee answer the how hard is the program question.
So I would say that it's about as difficult as you would think an engineering program is. It's not going to be easy. You're going to get all of your math and science classes in your first 2 years. So you're going to get physics. You're going to get all of your calculus. Those are not inherently easy. Like, they're not easy classes, but it isn't difficult. And there's lots of tools and resources to help those. So if those aren't your strongest suit, we have tutoring, we have online tutoring. There's many different resources that you can use. Your professors are going to help you through all of these classes. Like, they want to help you succeed. So I wouldn't say that it's too difficult, but it isn't one of the easiest majors on campus either.
Caitlin, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think I agree with Kaylee in that it is, I mean, if you're going into an engineering major, be prepared that it's going to be difficult, because it's not an easy major in any school that you're going to.
Let's see.
Jolita, can I add one thing there?
Please, yes.
So one of the things I want you to know, and Caitlin can testify to this a lot because she's had me last semester and this semester. This is not the kind of program that you come into and it's going to be I tell you things and then you regurgitate those things back to me. There are engineering programs that are like that. This is not that kind of a program. This is the kind of program where you're going to come into class, and sure, I'm going to teach you the content and I'm going to teach you the procedures and the different subject areas, but then I'm also going to intentionally throw a curveball into class because I want you to catch me. I want you to figure it out. I want you to think on your feet. I want you to do what you're actually going to do when you go into industry. So from that perspective, I would say it's a significantly harder program than if you were just, oh, I'm just spitting back what he tells me to tell him on a test. No. Like, that's not going to happen. I'm going to try to drive you a little bit further to think a little bit deeper. So that's, I got to, full upfront, I'm going to do that on purpose.
For Kaylee and Caitlin, would the two of you tell us just where you're from and why you chose to study engineering at CCU? Kaylee, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. So I'm from Kansas City, and I chose engineering because, well, I really liked thinking critically about things, and I have done well in math and science classes, which isn't like the main thing you're going to be doing, but it was something I was really interested in. And I got to go talk to Hickson at the beginning of my freshman year, and he basically outlined like what the major was going to be like, and I was like, yeah, this sounds like something I'd be interested in. So that's how I ended up in the major.
I ended up with the major because I took an engineering class in high school and fell in love with engineering. And then I saw that CCU had it. And the nice thing is they're one of the few Christian schools that have it. And so I wanted somewhere where it had a good, strong community aspect as well as technical engineering aspect.
And one follow-up question. Kaylee, what do you want to do with your degree, or do you know at this point? And you as well, Caitlin.
So I'm not entirely sure. It's just my second year, so I'm still keeping my options open, but I am pretty passionate about missions, so I think I do want to apply the program to missions. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like yet, though. So.
Also, like Kaylee, I do really enjoy missions and would like to someday incorporate engineering into missions. How that looks, I'm not entirely sure yet, so I guess we'll see.
Great. The next question is, what if I get into the program and find that I don't like it or I'm not good at it? Who will help me?
So I'll take this one. So what I'm going to do is you're going to be able to really feel things out in that first semester and that second semester for your feel of the program. And I'm going to be working with you the whole time there. So at the end of the first semester, I meet with all the students one-on-one as part of class, right? And part of that discussion that we have is I'm trying to feel you out and feel out where are things going well and where are things kind of struggling, if they are struggling at all. in that situation, we're going to be able to talk about it. And I had a couple conversations this past semester where students were like, I'm on the fence of it. And then we talked about it and they stayed in the program. And I had one where the student just said, hey, this isn't for me. And legitimately it wasn't, right? Like it wasn't for that student, and that's okay. It's better to make that decision or to know that early. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to help you figure out how do you transition into something that you can get caught up easily in, and it's still edifying for your interest and your passion. So it's really going to be a one-on-one between you and I, as well as your LDC advisor. So we have the Life Direction Center. So they're a huge asset in terms of helping you kind of figure out what that next step might be.
Great, thanks. Dr. Hickson, this one is for you specifically. How did you practice as an engineer, and what made you want to teach?
So I started out designing things like what's in my ear right now. So I went and did an internship where we were looking at cochlear implants, and this was before, well, not cochlear implants. We were looking at consumer electronics that went in your ear, but it was for musicians. And we were trying to figure out, the musician would get really disoriented when their bass player was behind them, but it sounded like the bass player was in front of them. So we were trying to figure out how to test that, and we were doing a bunch of things like that. When I got out of undergrad, I actually designed audio video systems. So I did large scale audio video systems designed for corporations and churches and universities and those type of things. I knew that a passion to teach was always there, or that interest was always there. And I learned about my PhD is actually in engineering education. So I did my doctoral work studying how to teach engineers and technical folks better. So that was kind of, when I found that PhD program, it was kind of a perfect match. I had no idea that the Lord would spin me around and lead me back to running an engineering program at a Christian university. I'm very, very glad he did. But that was kind of the thing, is I was practicing in the audio space, the systems design and that kind of space, but just kind of fell in love with wanting to help others develop their skills.
Great, thank you. Another question came in. What specifically are roles that an industrial and systems engineer performs?
Kaylee and Caitlin, do you want to take this, or do you want me to? Okay. So what roles? So you're not going to find, like, an easy way to think about this is, what would I search for if I'm going out on the job market? And you're actually not going to find a lot of things that say industrial engineer. So you're going to find things that are more like quality control, process analyst, business analyst, reliability engineer, those type of things. So you're looking for any role where the job is to take data, analyze that data, and improve a system, or take data, design a system, those type of things, right? So when you break it down completely, I mean, a lot of what any engineer does is they take data and the knowledge that they have, and they apply it to a complex problem. They apply it to a technical problem. They apply it to a system, right? To where they want to improve or increase or something like that. So the roles that we have, and the difference between the different majors is the context you're doing it in. So industrial and systems, you're doing it potentially in manufacturing or healthcare or education. In something like general engineering project management, you're doing it in a project management environment. So that might be technical, that might not, but you're trying to solve really hard problems in the project management space, or you're managing other folks as they solve those problems. So really, it's a matter of that idea of complex problems, applying very, very an analytical mind and a very creative mind and a very scientific and numerical data driven mind to directly address that issue. So in terms of roles, it's not like a specific title I can give you other than the ones I did, but it's a matter of, you're going to solve really hard problems, and that's what you're paid to do. You're paid to work on teams that solve really hard problems. The type of problems just depend on what context you decide to work in.
Great. The next question we have is an advanced degree necessary to get a job?
No. So you can get a job, unlike some other majors, right? you can get a job coming right out of undergrad with an engineering degree. The depending on how specific you want to get and how fast you want to get specific, that'll determine whether I recommend that you go back to get a master's degree right away. A lot of times it's better off to go get a job and then work that job for a little bit, because then you'll figure out exactly what you want to do and what you want to get that advanced degree in. But if you know right away, like, I'm really passionate about whatever it is. So let's say you come through the industrial engineering program, and you really are passionate about wastewater and wastewater management. Okay, you need to go get a more advanced degree in wastewater and, environmental engineering and that type of a thing. And that's not uncommon. You would move right out of our program to, a master's degree program in that specialty area. And you would come out with kind of a not only the good general engineering degree, but you'd also come out with the specialty that you want. So short answer, no, you don't need it. You can get a job right out of it. Unless you want to specialize quickly, then you should go get it. The other thing I would tell you is, don't jump to going to get a master's degree, because a lot of times your company will pay for it. So it doesn't make sense for you to pay out of pocket for a master's degree if your company's willing to pay for it, or if you can get onto a graduate or a faculty member's research project and get it completely paid for. All of these things I'm going to talk to you about as I advise you through the program.
Great. This question I think is for you, Kaylee, and you, Caitlin. How would you translate this program into the mission field?
So, like I said, I'm not entirely sure where I want to go with that. Yeah, still not entirely sure about that, that's for sure. But I'm thinking about trying to go along like relief efforts and that kind of stuff with, like, say, hurricanes, and how to best like organize like getting relief to them. I don't know for sure what that's going to look like yet, but that's kind of what I'm thinking at this point. That might change later down the line. What about you, Caitlin?
So I have like two different routes that I'm kind of thinking of, where I either go into a country and I do engineering work as like my full-time job, and missions is kind of something that I do on the side. So I support myself with my engineering job, but then I do missions in that country, because a lot of engineering jobs you don't have to be on site, or I can even do a job that I am on site and that is in that country, or I might do missions and engineering more combined, where like I help others just incorporate missions into their daily lives and stuff like that, because engineering principles can be used anywhere. And so I think just helping with maybe supplies getting into the mission field and everything like that would be super helpful.
Let me pile onto this one and say, like, one of those examples would be working for something like Samaritan's Purse, right? So you could go out and work for Samaritan's Purse and do their logistics, or help them with the logistics end of what they're doing. How do we get a doctor's kit to where it needs to be, or a doctor's cargo container to where it needs to be as soon as it needs to be there? Another one, exactly like Caitlin was saying, this is one that people don't often think about, but there are whole organizations where they facilitate you getting a job that's a technical job in a country, but the whole goal of you getting that job is to be a missionary, right? Like, really, the job is just you. It's a way to provide for yourself while you're being a missionary in that country. And there are organizations that help you in support with that. So both of those are possibilities.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I have a follow-up question about that for you, Dr. Hickson. Talking a little bit about what it looks like to find internships and jobs, and the connections that you guys have for students. And kind of, you said one of your current students that's graduating right now, was that something that they found on their own, their internship that they are now going into, or did you work with them for that?
Yeah, so I'm gonna work with every student to the best of my ability to connect them with an internship, before at least one internship before they're out of the program. Having that one good technical experience is critical. The extent that I work with every student really depends on the student. Some students want a lot of support with that. Some students don't, or they may say that they do, and then they don't ever, kind of act on it, or they don't ever move on it. So really, it's going to depend on how motivated is the student to do those internship things. From a getting an internship standpoint, there are two primary routes. There's the route where you just apply and you just bulk apply to as many places as you can. And if your keywords match well enough, then you'll get an internship, and then you'll get an interview, and I'm going to support you through that interview process to actually get that internship. Then there are things like what Caitlin and what other folks have done, where they have a connection somehow, right? And they use that connection to get them into that first stage and get them into that interview process. And then it's a matter of, once you get into that interview process, the playing field's kind of level in terms of, you either do well in that interview process and they hire you, or you don't. And really that's where a lot of the support's going to be. That being said, I'm constantly looking for internships. I'm constantly working with our employment management services group at CCU. I'm constantly partnering with different organizations or tracking down leads. So, that's a big part of my job when I'm not in the classroom, is trying to figure out who's industry. I had 2 calls last week with folks from industry, trying to figure out what's it look like for our engineering students to go there and to do an internship there. So it's a hard question to answer because it's different for everyone. But at the same time, I don't know if you can find a bigger advocate than I am, with the extent that you're going to have to do some legwork on your own in terms of, I can only get you so far, but at some point it gets to where you have to be putting in the resumes and you have to be working with me to interview prep and those type of things. Maddie, hopefully that answered that question.
Yeah, thank you so much. Shifting gears a little bit is, I'm going to ask Dr. Hickson and then pass it to our Dean of Enrollment. The question is, what is a typical standardized test score of a CCU engineering student? Specifically the CLT, which is the classical learning test, and that is similar to our ACT or SAT. Do you have an answer to that, Dr. Hickson? If you don't know, that's okay too.
So I'll let Jolita give you the official CCU policy. I'm going to give you the, Dr. Hickson engineering. I want you to be in the engineering program. So there is very, very little that's going to, in my mind, hold you back from at least attempting our engineering program. And the reason I say very little is because if you come in and you have no math, like your last math was pre-algebra in high school, you're going to struggle. It's going to be really, really hard because we just move so fast. An engineering program moves so fast, particularly from the math sequence. Could you be an engineer? Absolutely, right? Like, could you come into the engineering design courses and the engineering courses and do just fine? Sure, if you can get caught up with the math sequence. And that's really the limiting factor. I value standardized testing, but standardized testing is a mechanism to demonstrate certain things. It is not the thing that tells me the whole picture of who you are. The thing that tells me the picture of who you are is when you come into my class and I see how you're working. When you've done the semester at CCU and you've either done it and you've knocked it out of the park, or you haven't, and you're struggling, and there are different areas. So it's like, that's why we changed a lot of the things in our course catalog to recommended scores, right? So our official admissions for the industrial system engineering program are recommended scores, because that's what we think will make you successful. But I took off the requirements because I don't want that to limit anybody from joining our program. Now I'm going to turn it over to Jolita, and Jolita's going to tell you the official CCU policy.
Sure. Yeah. I underscore what Dr. Hickson said. It is a data point. It's not the data point. We encourage students to apply for admission and to explore the various programs that we offer. Some people are wonderful test takers and some people are terrible at it. That's why we consider it a data point. We also look at your GPA, and we look at a student's GPA over their career, 9th through 12th grade. And we do take a look at, we record all of the exam scores. So, although we do have an idea of what those are, as Dr. Hickson said, there's not a minimum required. So to apply for admission to CCU, the minimum is of our GPA is a 2.8 and the ACT is a 21. However, I would pay very close attention to what Dr. Hickson said about math. I would use those exams as a benchmark for how well you're recalling the math that you've had, and if you've had the math necessary to do well on the ACT or SAT. For example, if you take the ACT or SAT your junior year, you may not have had all the math you need to do well on those exams. So something just to consider. The CLT is the classical learning test. We do accept that, but you will have to concord that exam yourself, and you can do that on our website. So if you take the CLT, we provide the concordance for you over to the ACT or SAT. So that's about all I have really to share on that CLT. If you would like more information about CLT, go ahead and add it in the Q&A, and I'll answer it offline.
Great, thank you. And do you mind actually following up with a similar admissions question in the chat about CCU accepting CLEP scores?
Yes, we do. If you have CLEP scores that you would like to have us take a look at in terms of what courses that might transfer in as or be equivalent to, let your enrollment counselor know. And we can go ahead and take a look at that. There's two ways that we do that. One is the Life Direction Center advisors that set up our graduation plans and programs for students, as well as the registrar. So the general answer is yes, but it is specific to what you take and an analysis of what that would come in as or equivalent as at CCU.
And Maddie, can I add to this as well? Just so you all understand, there's a process behind that, right? And not to get too deep into the weeds, but you know, certain classes, so it's like if it's a chemistry class that has to have a lab component to it, we're going to evaluate. So it eventually will make it back to the faculty, and we're going to evaluate whether or not those two courses actually transfer in and whether they're equivalent. And it's not because we want to be over how do I say it, over demanding or whatever you want to call it. It's because the way we track our curriculum, if you don't have certain skills, you're going to struggle in the next class. So if you come in with a CLEP score for a class, sure, that CLEP score is great, but if it didn't teach you what you need to be successful in the next class, it potentially puts you at a disadvantage when you get into that next class. So it's not something we take lightly. That's my point. If you see us going, well, we want to evaluate that, it's because we want to make sure that you're prepared for what you need to be prepared for.
Great, thank you so much. We talked a little bit about the course catalog, and that's what Dr. Hickson mentioned a little bit ago. And I would really encourage you to go to our course catalog. It's ccu.edu/academics. And on there, you can look at all of the classes that you will be taking for your major. This is the same course catalog that our current students go to in order to register for their classes. There's a little description on every single class that you'll be able to look at and see what your time at CCU will look like and what courses you will be taking here. I have a question for Kaylee and Caitlin. I don't know if you guys looked at other engineering programs or other schools, and you kind of mentioned why you came to CCU, but what kind of advice would you give to a prospective student who is trying to decide between our engineering program and an engineering program of another university?
So I probably can't speak on this because I came to CCU and fell in love with CCU before I chose to be an engineer. So maybe Caitlin has more experience with that. But yeah, I was at CCU before I chose engineering. So Caitlin, do you have a different story there?
Yeah, I do. I actually looked at one other engineering school before coming to CCU because I knew I wanted to do engineering before I officially decided to go to CCU. And so I was looking for engineering as my main kind of focus. And I would say that a lot of engineering schools, not all of them, but some of them, I looked at the bigger one, Purdue, they have a huge program and you're kind of going to get lost in the weeds a little bit. You may not get as much of a one-on-one with your professors and get to know them as well as you might at CCU. And I think the whole community aspect too, just being in a Christian school and just a smaller school in general, you really get to know your classmates and you kind of form like a CCU engineering group almost. And I think that's really cool and a whole lot of fun and not something that I saw as much as the other schools. So.
Great, thank you both. I think that's really, you both have very unique stories with that. And Kaylee, I think that it's really cool how the Lord brought you here and kind of redirected your path And we all get to different schools and different places at different times. But yeah, the Lord's plan will happen for every one of our students. And that is what we want for all of our prospective students watching. We want you to go where the Lord wants you to go. And we're trying to give you some more information and to understand what CCU looks like. So thank you both. We have another question that came in. Dr. Hickson, if you don't mind answering this one. It is, what is CCU's position on creation versus evolution?
Well, I'm glad I'm glad we got started off light, and now we're moving into, the deep water. So that's good. So here's the deal. I will tell you that CCU, I can't speak for CCU as like a school, right? I can't speak for the school in general because that doesn't warrant it. What I will tell you though is, God created, right? In Genesis 1, God created. The fundamental, theological issues that God created all that there is firm without a doubt. In terms of how that happened, I will tell you that there is a spectrum of belief at CCU, and we welcome that spectrum of belief. And the reason we welcome that spectrum of belief is because our students have that spectrum of belief. So as somebody who has taught the science for non-science majors class, right? So it's the class that all the students take when they aren't science majors. We have that conversation, and we have a very robust conversation. And my philosophy, again, I'm going to speak for myself, right? My philosophy isn't to decree onto my students what the right answer is. It's my philosophy that my job is to look at the Bible and say, what does the Bible say? To look at scientific knowledge and say, what does scientific knowledge say? And then say, now student, you need to figure out what this means. And you need to take, kind of unpack this and have a stance for yourself. And the reason I believe that that's very strong is because if I just tell a student what to think, they're not really engaging with that material. I want the student to really engage with that material, and I want the student to come away with their own take on that. The other reason is because there are very, very wise theologians out there who disagree with this, and they disagree with this heartily, right? In robust dialogue with that. So it isn't a matter of that I think, literal six-day creation is false. No. It isn't a matter that I think that evolution doesn't exist. No. It's a matter of, I don't believe, again, this is me personally, I don't believe we are told all of the details because I don't believe we need to know necessarily all of the details in order to understand what the Bible was trying to tell us. So that's my take on this. Again, I'm not speaking on behalf of CCU because I don't believe it's my position to speak on behalf of the entire university around that area. So there you go.
Thank you, Dr. Hickson. Oh, did you want to hop in there, Joe?
I would just underscore again what Dr. Hickson said, that we want our students to be able to examine the different theories behind creation and be able to defend one that they align most closely with, and for whatever reason they do. So we do want students to examine that, and we do want students to be able to think through that and be able to defend their answer. And exactly as Dr. Hickson said, it is not so students just regurgitate what is taught, but they have an integrated faith and are better positioned to evangelize after they leave CCU, which is what we consider the highest calling for our students, not only as students, but when they graduate, is to share the gospel and do it in a way that is soundly defended through their education at CCU.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. I would also just remind you that at CCU, we are an interdenominational Christian university, which means we have over 60 denominations of Christianity represented. We're also unapologetically Christian university, and that is what we stand on. And if you are wondering what we believe, it's between the two covers of the Bible. And that is one of my favorite things to say because it's true. And it's who we are, it's what we believe in, and it's what we're building our education on. And we want more than anything. That's why well, we want more than anything our students to, like Joe said, go out into the world and impact the world for Christ, which is why every single one of our students graduates with a biblical emphasis. It's 5 courses, 5 theology courses that every single student is required to take for graduation, no matter what field the Lord is calling them into, because we believe that the Lord calls our students into every single different field, and that we want them to have a firm foundation in Scripture. And the fact that we have a ton of different denominations of Christianity represented at CCU creates healthy discussion in our classes and allows our students to create a relationship with the Lord that they can back up what they believe on. And Caitlin and Kaylee, do you guys mind speaking a little bit on what it's like? Did you start in a Christian school in high school? Were you in public school and then coming to a Christian school? I just wanted to get a student perspective on a Christian higher education experience.
Yeah, so I was in public school for my entire life. I obviously went to church, but yeah, completely public school, no Christian education there. So coming to CCU, it was like a breath of fresh air. Like, it's amazing to be able to start out all of our classes with either a prayer or like ending it with a prayer. I mean, even in our calculus class, we would have a verse that would talk about like how God created everything and how everything works together. And it's like, and this can be applied to calculus, like look at how God created the earth and all of this stuff. And so it's really amazing. Honestly, I absolutely loved it. I love all of the theology classes we're required to take, and I love them so much that I added a biblical studies minor in addition, because I've just loved taking the classes. So yeah.
I have a bit of a different story. I have been in almost every type of education. So I was in a private academy in elementary school years, and then I was homeschooled for a while, and then I went to public school. And so with all of those different backgrounds, I think that CCU is definitely a unique school, and one that I enjoy because it is nice to, like Kaylee said, have that prayer in the beginning of classes and everything like that. And also just to have those students around you who have a faith in Christ and just are trying to all follow and serve Jesus the best that we can. And so I think that's really unique and really cool.
Thank you both for sharing. And I had another follow-up question for both of you. I know Dr. Hickson kind of talked about his support of students and what that looks like in the classroom and helping them navigate that. Can you guys speak a little bit about your student and professor relationships experience in the classroom and what smaller class sizes has given you both academically and personally, as opposed to being in a larger lecture hall?
Yeah, so the smaller classes are definitely really nice. We know everyone in the class, and the professors know our name, and they really pour into our lives. I know a lot of professors on campus that will have like students over for like meetings where they can come with questions, and they'll like answer things, like a big group of students in their house, and invite them into their house. And like Dr. Hickson said, in the end of the first semester, he met with us individually and talked about like where we're trying to go and how we're doing in the classes that we're taking and like going forward and stuff. And so it's just really amazing to be able to have that one-on-one relationship with all of our professors and to have them really be able to pour into our lives.
Yeah, I think I just kind of repeat what Kaylee said about how it's nice to have a small class size and just to be able to know your professors. I've had a lot of professors multiple times, and so I've gotten to get to know them. I'm more of an introvert, so I don't like talking a whole lot in classes. And because I know my professors so well, I'm more comfortable sharing just my ideas and everything like that, and just being able to speak up and be challenged to grow more in my classes, I think, because my professors know me more and are more likely to call on me.
Can I add something here, Maddie?
Please.
So one of the things that, we're a new program, right? So we're going to graduate our first class this current spring, right? So this semester that we're having, we're going to graduate our first class of students. And one of the things I'm continually trying to do, and I'm continually trying to grow in terms of the program, is this social community and this community, right? And as with most things, COVID has impacted that in terms of what we were allowed to do. But up until that, I mean, we were trying to do trips. We were trying to do things like the what's it called? I'm blanking on the name. Caitlin, help me. Where'd we go when we solved the puzzles?
Escape room.
The escape room, right? So we were doing things like the escape room, right? Like we were going to grab coffee. We were doing things like that. My goal was that we are doing more and more and more of those things, not because I'm saying that we should do more of those things, but because that's the kind of program that we are. So when it comes from the way I want to run the program, I not only want us to be completely nerdy and super engineering when it comes to being super engineering, but also I want us to be, at least at a minimum, have good relationships with each other outside of that. And we know each other and we can pray for each other and we can pour into each other's lives. So that's a continual developing process, but that's something I'm still trying to grow the program to do as well.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that. And a little tag onto that. I don't know if I mentioned this at the beginning, but I graduated from CCU last year in 3 years ago, 2019, and can say that everything they are talking about was my experience as well. I studied communication and management. So this is not just an engineering specific class size and programs that I had really small classes. As a communications major as well, I think my smallest class was 8 students. And there was one student that was always 10 minutes late, and we always started class 10 minutes late because we knew he was coming. And that is something that you don't get at other universities, to be able to be called by name and know your academic habits. So I think that has been the most life-giving and incredible experience for me, is my relationship with my professors that I still have after graduating for a couple of years, and people that I really look up to. So thanks for sharing that.
There's a couple of questions that came in the Q&A, Dr. Hickson, that we might have covered. If you don't mind touching on them again. This one is a new question. The male and female, or male to female ratio in the engineering program. And then a question again around internships and the types of jobs that industrial and systems engineers do, as well as our new program, engineering project management.
So the male female, right now, if you look at the program total, we're roughly 25%, 75%. So 25% female, 75% male. That actually was very dramatically impacted by this latest incoming class. So the incoming class is, I want to say it's 11 or 12 male students and 1 female student. So we were like 50-50. And then when that class came in, and everything shifted to what looks like basically the trends across the nation from when it comes to engineering programs. So that's the male female split. In terms of jobs that you're going to do, as I said before, you're gonna go out into industry, and it's gonna depend on your industry. But let's say that I'll give you an example for the internships that we've had. So we had one student come out, went to Lockheed Martin, did an internship where they were specifically looking at the systematic approach to designing a product, really, and the way the product was designed, it had to be integrated from a bunch of different functions. So their job was to make sure that the integration of that single product was actually interfacing with this group and this group and this group and this group and this group. And that takes a special skill to make sure that all these technical groups are integrating well. Another student had an internship that was looking really at how do we optimize nurses in an ER, doctors and nurses in an ER. And really, that's a very, very computer heavy, data heavy, and machine learning kind of algorithm heavy type of an internship. So she was taking what she had learned in her optimization type courses that we take in this program, and just her general engineering design skills and problem solving skills, and applying it into that context as well. So those are 2 different types of things. Another one might be, okay, we are Purina, up in northern, in the industrial part of Denver, and we're putting on a new wing of the plant. Okay, there's a lot of different ways that engineers are needed there. How do people work? Why do they work? What does it look like for them to work? What is the time it takes them to do their job? How do we not hurt the human? So how do we get the most out of the human and not hurt the human? When is a machine better than a person? That's specific to a manufacturing. Caitlin, do you want to talk about yours and how you saw industrial and systems coming into your internship?
Yeah. So I can go ahead and talk. I had an internship after my freshman year, And so one of my primary jobs was to write up work instructions, which is basically like a standardized process for how to do certain jobs. And so over the course of the internship, I would look at specific jobs and watch the people work. And then I would standardize their process and write up a step-by-step, like almost like an instruction manual. So that way other people that came later on could learn how to do the process and learn some of the different techniques that were used just to help standardize the process and make it easier for new workers to come in.
Thanks, Caitlin.
Great, thank you both. We are coming close to the end of our time here. Sad. If you have any more questions, please send them in the chat right now. I'm going to ask our students and professor if they have any more parting thoughts. I see that Dr. Hickson just put his email in the chat. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, he is an incredible resource that would love to walk alongside you with deciding what program you would like to do or if you want to attend CCU. So please reach out to me if you have any more questions. But Kaylee, Caitlin, and yeah, go ahead.
So Maddie, I'm sorry. Just one thing I want you all to know, for those that are attending live and those that are going to be watching this later on down the road, I'm happy to answer questions about engineering education in general. And you know, I would love to have you in our program. My goal is that we are developing, you know, engineers that are going out and changing the world and impacting the world for Christ through technology, through engineering, through those type of things. But if there's a question I can answer for you and it's a meeting that you and I sit down and have, or just an email back and forth, I'm more than willing to do that. And I'm happy to do that. I consider that a privilege. You know, the Lord's put me in this position to help that. So it might be that you're, you know, really interested in some other program and you just don't know something and something's confusing. I'd love to be that resource for you if I can be that resource for you. Just want you to know that yes, I want you in our program. My goal is to get you in our program. My goal is to hook you and have you, you know, graduate here and do wonderful things out of CCU. But I would just love to also be a resource for you as well.
Great, thank you so much. Kaylee and Caitlin, do you guys have any parting thoughts or things you want to share about the program, your experience to any prospective students or families? You don't have to either, just tell me if you want to.
I was just going to say that we have a great time. It's been amazing. We've got to work on so many projects and got to know all of the students and professors, and I've just really enjoyed my time here at CCU and particularly in the engineering program, and I think you will too. So
yeah, I think I would kind of repeat what Kaylee said, and that it's awesome. I would also say it's very challenging. So if you're up for a challenge, like go for it, because it's super fun and just cool to brainstorm with other engineers and just all be learning together and figuring stuff out.
Thank you both so much. I wanted to invite anybody who's watching this to our preview event on February 15th on President's Day, which is next Monday. It's on Zoom. It's a couple hours during the day. It's a 360-degree view of CCU. You will get an overall presentation of CCU, hear from one of our financial aid advisors, hear from Jolita Martin, our Dean of Enrollment, as well as our President of the University, Dr. Sweeting, and get to ask some questions of a student panel. You also get a free t-shirt in the mail. So who doesn't want a free t-shirt? It's a really great opportunity to get to know more about CCU in a very compact fashion that you can interact with, and you can ask questions of your professors in your same major. So if you have questions directly for Dr. Hickson or you want to engage more with him, I know you have his email, but that's a really great resource as well. You can go to ccu.edu/visit. We're also having in-person campus tours, so that's where you can sign up for a campus tour as well. But I just want to echo what everybody said tonight, and that our hearts is that we want you to go where the Lord wants you to go. And whether that's CCU or not, we will walk alongside you until the Lord turns your path one way or the other. And my favorite part about my job is working with students and families and getting to be a part of that process and praying for you and watching what the Lord does with that. So please reach out to your enrollment counselors. We really care about you and we want to walk with you along this process. And thanks for joining us. Thank you so much, students and Jolita Martin and Dr. Hickson. You guys have been amazing and I appreciate all of your time tonight. Thank you. Have a great night.